My name's Randy Curry, and today I'm going to show you how to make the perfect pot roast. I've had a lot of pot roasts throughout the years, and I've never eaten one that compares to the recipe I'm getting ready to show you. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing we want to go over is the meat choice that we use. I always use chuck roast. Now usually I use one, but today I'm using two. These are a little bit smaller than what I usually use, so since they were a little bit smaller, I bought two of them. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to sear them. A lot of people cook pot roast, they fix it in a crock pot, which I don't believe that a crock pot is the way to cook a pot roast. The best way to cook one, believe it or not, is on the stove top, and I'm going to show you why. First of all, I'm going to sear these on all four sides, not just the top and bottom. I'm going to get the sides too. When you cook in a crock pot, you don't get that sear that you do when you do stovetop cooking. Now the first thing we're going to do, I've got it on medium-high heat. We're going to let it cook for about 2 to 3 minutes on each side. It's going to give it that good crusty brown coating on it that is very desirable. So what I did, I put 2 tablespoons of oil, of vegetable oil, in the pot, and then I took about 1 tablespoon and lightly coated the pot roast with it. So while this is searing, I'm going to go ahead and prep my vegetables. I'm going to wash my carrots and potatoes, and then I'm going to dice up the onions. And after we do that, we'll pick it up from there. Come over and see what we got here. You can go ahead and bring that camera over. See that brown caramelization? That's what you want. That's what you want on them. This is the problem that you get when you use a crock pot and you throw the meat in the morning, you throw the vegetables in, and then you turn it down on low heat. Come home at the end of the day in the afternoon and it's done. You don't get that caramelization that you get when you sear the meat like this. This is a extra step that is wonderful, and anytime you fix a pot roast, you need to fix it like that. So right now I'm taking care of my carrots. I'm peeling the carrots, just peeling them into a little Tupperware, which is my little trash can here. So I'm going to finish peeling these, then I'm going to dice up the onions, and I'm going to cut up the potatoes. Okay, I'm cutting the potatoes up now. What I'm doing is I'm cutting them in half, and then I'm cutting them in fourths. 8 pieces per potato. Half, 2 cuts on each. This is just to keep them closer in size to the carrots, and they're bite-sized pieces then. Okay, on the onions, what I'm going to do, I want the pieces to be a little bit bigger. This is up to you how small you want them. So what I'm going to do, cut the onion in half, cut it once down the middle, 2 cuts. There we go. Cut it in half, 2 cuts. And now my vegetables are ready. Let's come over here and take a look at this. See, I even got it turned up on its side. I want to get all sides caramelized. We're almost there. Alright, the pot roast is finished searing. By the way, I'm searing this on medium-high heat. You can go high, but I like medium-high. So what I'm getting ready to do now is add beef broth. You can use you can use beef broth, or you can use stock, either one. Now I'll just go ahead and pour that in there. Now my biggest complaint when I eat pot roast that somebody else has made, or when I have pot roast in restaurants, is it usually has a bit of a bland taste to it. And this pot roast is going to be very, very flavorful. And there's two reasons why, in my opinion, pot roast is a little bit bland. One reason is using water instead of beef broth or beef stock. If you go to the extra step of using beef broth or beef stock, it'll come out so much more better. Trust me, you'll like the taste of it a lot better. And the other reason is the herbs and spices that I'm going to be putting into it, which I'll be showing you that in just a minute. So right now we can come over here, you can take a look at this. Now it's ready to go down to low heat. So I'm going to put it on low, and this is going to cook for 3.5 hours. Now since I have 2 roasts in there instead of 1, I used 2 containers of beef broth. All you have to do is use 1. So we'll pick the taping up in just a minute. This is what makes this pot roast wonderful and special. First, I've got 3 cloves of garlic here. If you're making this recipe, use 2. I'm using 3 because I'm making a little bit more. I've got 2 sprigs of rosemary. These are pretty good sized sprigs. If I was just making 1, I would probably use 1 and maybe about half of this one. But what I do is just throw the whole thing in there. These will come off the stem. Same with thyme. I've got 6 sprigs of thyme. For this recipe, if you're just making 1, I would use 4. So 4 sprigs of thyme, 2 sprigs of rosemary, and then you would use 2 bay leaves. I'm using 3. And once again, when this is done cooking, you don't want to eat the bay leaves. You will take these bay leaves back out. So you can look at what I got over here. Kind of push those in just a little bit. And we're ready to let this start cooking. Now this is going to cook for 3.5 hours on low heat. I'm waiting 1 hour to put the vegetables in. The vegetables don't take as long to cook as the pot roast. Now this is another mistake that a lot of people make when they fix pot roast, especially the old method of cooking in the crock pot, fixing it in the morning before you leave for work, and then coming home in the evening and it's done. The problem is when vegetables cook that long of a period of time, they get mushy. They're overcooked in order for the pot roast to be cooked the way it should be. So I'm going to let this cook for 1 hour, which will be 2.5 hours left, and at that time I'll throw the vegetables in. So we'll pick the filming back up in about 1 hour. In the meantime, I've got it covered. We're just going to let it cook. Hour. So what we're going to do now is go ahead and add the vegetables. You can see what it looks like at this point. But before I do that, I'm going to turn these over, which is another thing that I do that most people don't, is about every 45 minutes or so, flip them over. Particularly if your water level is low. That way you know it's going to cook even. Oh, kind of watch the splashing a little. There we go. They're all in there. Get everything under the fluid. Alright. Now we'll cover it. Now it's just a matter of time. We'll check back a little later. Alright, our pot roast is finished. It's been 3.5 hours. So right now, I'm going to take the lid off, turn the stove off. What I'm going to do real quick here, we're going to plate it real quick, I'm going to pull at least one of these out and put on a plate, maybe both of them, and we'll see what it looks like then. Alright, we're finished. I've got it on a plate here. You can see the finished results here. This is so tender. People question cooking it on a stove like that, how it would work. It just falls apart. This just comes apart so easy. Look at that. You don't need a knife with this. This is just so tender. You would think that you have to cook it for 10 or 12 hours to get meat this tender, but I showed you a recipe here. I want to encourage you, try this. Once you try this pot roast, you'll never go back to your old recipe. You can see the rosemary, the thyme, all the herbs that are around here. Very wonderful, totally adds to the flavor. Let's see what it tastes like. Wonderful. I said it before, I'll say it again, this is best pot roast I've ever had. Now try it yourself. Try this recipe. I guarantee you'll love it.